In lines 331 to 336, Dido has just finished speaking to Aeneas, where she has discovered that he is planning on leaving Carthage and leaving her, more importantly. And Aeneas is listening, and Virgil tells us in 331 that she had spoken, and he, that man, Aeneas, was holding his eyes motionless at the warnings, or because of the warnings of Jove. And resolute or determined, he was pressing his concern or his care deep or under his heart. And at last, he relates a few things or a few words. I will never deny, O Queen, that you, who are able or who are well to enumerate or to lay out very many things by speaking, you are deserved. You are merited. And it will not pain me to remember Elissa, while I am mindful of myself, and while my spirit rules these limbs. So there's quite a lot to unpack here. I'll try to take things one at a time here. The pluperfect verb to begin, Dido is the subject, she had spoken. The demonstrative pronoun here describing Aeneas. And monetis here, maybe the first thing worth noting, the ablative of cause, right? The reason that he was holding his eyes motionless. Lumina here, the common metonymy for eyes, his light, his eyes. Fairly normal here, obnixus, he, it's the adjective with the us, the nominative ending, describing the subject of the verb here. So he, determined, focused, resolute, was premebotting his coram under his heart. And so then down here we've got refert, the common word for dicit, loquitur, and then we pauca, the substantive neuter adjective, a few things, a few verba, a few words. Here's where it gets a little complicated, as often it does in the Latin that we see in poetry and in the Aeneid when people are speaking. I love the juxtaposition here with ego and te. I mean, that really encapsulates what's going on here. If we see this in a movie, we see Dido and Aeneas standing face to face and pleading their case to each other. So, I will never deny, O Queen, that you. So this starts out an indirect statement. So I call this the twisted object. Your teacher probably calls it the subject accusative. So the indirect statement is, I will never deny that you pro meritam esse, that you are deserved. You have earned this. And what he's referring to here, specifically back in 317, when she's speaking to him, she said, Meroe, I have deserved at least this. And she goes on to describe basically an explanation that she deserves, or even as far as I have deserved a child that could remind me of you when you leave. And so promeritam is used very deliberately here. The relative clause, quae, you, who, the feminine, because we're talking about the feminine Dido. And then wales is used here as a synonym for potes. So you who are well, or who are strong enough, well enough to enumerate, to lay out, to recount very many things, plurima, again the substantive neuter adjective here, and then by speaking, so the gerund. The next part of this is the impersonal verb piget, so it pains or it irks. It bothers, and so what he says here is, it will not bother me to remember Elissa. Memini, if you remember from your grammar book, is a verb that exists in the perfect system. So I know it's the perfect active infinitive here, but we're going to translate it as a present tense. So it will not pain me to remember, and then Memini takes the genitive to maybe complicate it for your applat student, your common applat student. Dum memor, we're missing a sum here. While I myself am mindful of me. And while my spirit, my spiritus, rules hos artus. I think it's worth noting, it's definitely worth noting here, he refers to Dido as Elissa, which he doesn't, which really I think starts to rhetorically draw the distinction between comrade and foreigner. Elissa is a foreign name for Dido here. So, you know, he is already drawing the distinction of the separation that he's creating with his flight from Carthage.